Hi, everyone. Welcome to Live from Northwestern. We're really excited that you're here with us this morning. I don't know what time zone you're in, but welcome to this live stream. We're really excited to be here today, and I'm also really excited to be here. If you don't know who I am, my name is Mauricio Gonzalez. I'm an assistant director of admission here at Northwestern. I also am an alum. I graduated in 2018 from our College of Arts and Sciences, and I also work in our office in the admissions round, which is a really exciting time. But what's even more exciting, as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, is we have a wonderful guest with us this evening. And we're really fortunate and really happy to have Peter Civetta from the Office of Undergraduate Research with us. And I'll just let him take it away and introduce himself. Are you ready, Peter?
Yeah, well, thank you. Nice to virtually meet everybody. My name is Peter Civetta. I'm the director of the Office of Undergraduate Research. I also teach in the theater department and with the Cook Family Writing Program. We developed the Office of Undergraduate Research about 8 years ago, and ready to take on questions.
Awesome. Again, we're super happy. We're just having a bit of technical difficulties with our screen cursor, so I apologize to everyone out there, but we're fixing that, making sure Peter looks great for the camera. We're all set. So yeah, Peter, there you go. Your camera ready.
That's it.
So one of the questions that I had when I was coming into Northwestern, and one I still did have throughout my entire time, was what does research generally look like here at Northwestern, whether that be from someone coming from having taken AP research in school, maybe having worked for a lab before, maybe they just have they never heard of research until they set foot on campus.
Yeah, so research exists everywhere. Research is not just something that lab sciencey people do. It's not just something for people who know they want to go to graduate school. It's really about how do we learn things as a society, as people, right? So research happens in every field. So if there's a department, if there's classes, then there's people that study that. So what we really focus in on is what are questions that you want to answer, and then what are the means of potentially answering those questions? And that works if you're in a chemistry lab, that works if you're an anthropologist in Bolivia, that works if you're a radio, TV, film major and you want to make a film. So research kind of fits as long as we think about it in terms of what are the questions that need to be answered, why do they need to be answered, and then how would we go about answering it?
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you're the expert, and that is exactly what I thought it to be. So I'm happy to hear that we're on the same page.
That's good.
Yeah, on that note, we've been getting a lot of questions just in general. So thank you to everyone for your questions. Feel free to drop it in the comments below, and we'll do our best to get to them throughout this live stream. One of the questions is asking about what are Northwestern's are opportunities available for research internships or any partner institutions that we partner with for research opportunities over the summer, during the school year, paid, unpaid. So they're covering a lot of ground.
Yeah. So research, like I said, research happens in all fields, but it happens differently in different fields. So the biggest kind of dividing, like fork in the road for research, there's my cat. The biggest dividing road is whether the research that you're looking to do takes place in a lab or a research group or not. So if it's like chemistry or biology or psychology, those are lab disciplines. And so what you want to do is you want to get involved in a lab, and they give you the training and you learn. And that could happen at Northwestern. That could happen at another university in the summer. And so it can happen internationally. We have students that find labs in Germany and go work there for the summer. But if it's not in a lab, then really what it becomes about is putting together your own project. And, we work on the assumption that you have no idea how to put together your own project and no idea how to write a research grant proposal to get funding for that project. And that's essentially why I have a job. And I like having a job because my child goes to Northwestern and it's expensive and I need to keep my job. So the idea is that we work together with students, and the students really just come in and say, hey, this is what I'm interested in, and then we help them learn how to develop that and go through the paths. But specifically to talk about that, like working at other universities. So there's programs that are called REUs, which is Research Experiences for Undergraduates. And these are connected usually to the National Science Foundation. So a university, a lab would request what's called an REU, and then they would agree to take in a cohort of students. Usually those students are from other universities from yours, right? So that is a good way to kind of, if you're doing research here at Northwestern and you want to try research somewhere else, then that's a great way. The REU programs here at Northwestern are run through our Office of Fellowships. So we work really closely with them. The kind of difference between them and me is all of my money is purple, right? So we're Northwestern money from Northwestern students doing Northwestern programs, and Office of Fellowship is basically everybody else's money. So the U.S. government, so Fulbrights, all that kind of stuff. There's lots of opportunities of getting involved.
Absolutely. And we have a specific question actually about one of those fellowships.
Okay.
Theo is asking, could you elaborate on history-specific research opportunities? I think we've got that question a couple of times, such as the Leopold Fellowship.
Yeah, so Leopold is run by the history department. So it's not run directly by my office, but it's a really tremendous program which pairs students working with history faculty on their research. So they're working on a book and they'll take you on as a research assistant, and you'll do the kind of stuff and you'll be a part of the project. And very often what happens is that these opportunities then can turn into the students' own projects. So we have a very similar program called the Undergraduate Research Assistant Program, which is for students in any field. But it's the same premise where you're working with a faculty on their research, but not just working, not just go copy chapter 6 out of that book. It is it is a mentoring program that's designed to teach you how they think, right? How does a historian with Leopold, how do they think about the kind of work that they're doing? How do they take in all those primary sources and turn that into something? And this is what URAP does as well. You're working with faculty and they're kind of teaching you. And if you like that, then great. You can go on and do some more stuff on your own. If you don't like it, then great. Try something else. But that way, students, what's great about those kinds of programs is that they give students real knowledge. Like, oh, I really like history. Okay, well, that's really different than doing history research, right? So you want to experience about what that's like, and that's what those kinds of programs offer. But it's a tremendous program.
Yeah, and on that note, I think something that I am curious about is with the URAP or any research opportunities, is there a limit to the number of times you can do programs like URAP or anything along those lines? I've gotten those questions just talking to other high school students while on the road.
Yeah, so for the research assistant program, that is a program that's specifically designed for students who are just getting started. So that's a one-off program. You can do that once, because once you've gotten started, you've gotten started. But there's a lot of other programs. Essentially, you're going to graduate before you run out of grants that I can give you. I have a student who's a senior who I think I've given 11 grants to during her time.
Really?
So bring it on. If you think you're going to exhaust your opportunities, I dare you. I dare you. Bring it. Because there's so we have undergraduate research grants, which are independent projects. So that's where either in a lab, and the lab helps you figure out what your project would be within the lab, or you're developing your own project, and whether that's a film or Dostoevsky research or Shakespeare or whatever it is in whatever field. And then if you want to do another one of those, there is the opportunity that we have academic year and summer, and you can get that multiple times as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Really great opportunity. Lots of things to do throughout the entire time. There was a question that we had also gotten asked. Oh, here's a good question. How competitive are the research opportunities at Northwestern? Asked by Vanessa on our live stream.
Hi, Vanessa. Great question. So one of the things that's really cool about how we do the grant programs that we run are adjudicated. It is very unlike the college process you're going into, but in a good way, in that the faculty review committees that judge these grants. So this is for the research assistant program and for the research grant program, which is the independent project. So working with faculty and work for both of those faculty review, they are charged with doing a merit-based review solely. So what that means is that they are explicitly told not to care about how much money they are spending. They look at each individual application and they say, so for a URG, they say, is there a clear question in here? Have they justified why that question needs to be answered? Do they have a good plan for answering it? Do they have the skills to do that? Good, we'll fund it. Then they'll look at the next one and they'll ask the same set of questions. There's no version of it where they say, oh, we love both of these, but we can only pick one of them, right? So they all get funded. But wait, there's more. I run the programs. I write the handbook that they use to evaluate the grants, right? But I am not a voting member of the committees by design. So we are an advising-centric office. So what we do is we listen to what they say in the grant committee meetings about what they want, and then we tell the students that's what they want. So essentially, the game is rigged for you to win the game. Because we realize that these experiences, particularly putting together your own independent project, can be incredibly transformative for you. But we also know that you don't know how to do it, not because you're an idiot, but because no one's taught you. And we want you to learn this. And also, one of the things we also believe is that, if you do your project, and that's really awesome, but if you learn how to write a grant proposal is a grant proposal is a grant proposal. And once you learn how that works, you are unlocking the key to lots of piles of money over there. So we want to do that in a very intentional way. So the acceptance rate on URGs is usually in the 60 to 65% range. For the research assistant program, it's like 75%.
There you go. What more can you want, kids?
Bring it on, Vanessa. Come on, we'll get you set up.
Yeah, Vanessa says hi. So
hi, Vanessa.
She really appreciates you answering her question. Let's see. We also are getting a lot of questions. As we both know, Northwestern is very interdisciplinary in so many different ways. And there are students who are asking if opportunities are limited to one field of study. Are they typically done involving multiple areas of study? How exactly can you bring that interdisciplinary lens or combine different departments within any of the opportunities you've just mentioned tonight?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's really something that we want students to think about the value of research, right? Because research is not just, as I said, it's not just about trying to get into grad school. I mean, if you want to go to grad school, great, go to grad school. But people tend to think like, oh, if I want to get a PhD, you don't know probably if you want to get a PhD. Right. So what you can use research is an opportunity to explore something and get more information about what it is like to do it. Right. So what we really encourage students to do is explore things that are of interest and see what you like about it and don't like about it. So students get involved in research in things that have nothing to do with their major, but are just things that they want to do. So if you've got two majors and you want to explore research in both of them, bring it on. You want to do research that fuses them together? Yeah, we can do that, right? If you want to try something that, I want this kind of skill, because that might be the kind of career path. So there's a skill that I want to get that isn't really directly connected. We can do research about that. But a lot of times we want to think about this as like, it's almost like putting on a costume, right? Or putting on the robe and be does that feel, I look good in that, right? So if it feels good, then you can pursue it more. If you're like, yep, that feels janky, I don't want that, right? Then don't do it. But it's a great way for you to try things, right? Because my guess is if anyone out there, you guys don't know if you want to do research in linguistics, because imagine your high school has a linguistics program, right? So you don't even really know what linguistics is. So you got to try things. You take classes, but doing these research grants is a great way for you to try things on and see what you like, and then there's more opportunity from there. So interdisciplinary is really fun. Trying things outside of your area is a great use of them as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's all about for exploration. Just as a plug to people watching tonight, so many students come in undecided to Northwestern. About half of our first year class, in fact, does come in undecided. So again, research is awesome for so many ways. I'm not just saying that as someone who did
Mhm.
research myself, but it allows you to really find the thing that you want to study. Also, what led to my major in psychology. So there you go. Peter's
That's
also
great.
does great work.
Yeah, one thing I'll also say is you're filling out these college applications, and you're making this path of like, yep, this is what I want to do with my life. And then you come to college, and you know who has never read what you wrote? Any of your professors, right?
Right.
I can't read any. I don't have access to any of the admissions things. So no one who you will ever take a class with will have this. So in other words, if you want to change, like no one's going to know, right? So
Exactly.
you're allowed. Anytime a student comes in, it's like, oh, I think I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do this. We're like, great, let's go. That's what college is for. You're supposed to try things on. So, and when you're writing your essays, you're kind of acting like, oh yeah, that's what I want to do. But don't worry about it, because no one you will interact with after you get in will have read any of that. So be free.
Exactly. Be free in that process as well. Just as a note to the applicants out there, we are nice. We're just as great as myself and Peter, I swear. What else? We also are getting a lot of questions regarding how common it is for first year or second year students, for the language they're using as underclassmen, to be involved with research. I think this also stems from a question that I also get pretty often while on the road, is how early can you be involved with research or start learning about these research opportunities that we're discussing, and, meet with an advisor from your wonderful office. All those things.
We're ready when you are. I mean, it's essentially the simple answer. We have students. We have first year students who have just finished their fall term that are already involved. We just funded. I don't know the exact numbers, but dozens of first year students with the research assistant program. So they've been on campus. They've been on campus for a few weeks, and they were hired through our program. And you can get involved. You can get involved lots of different ways. So essentially, it's when you're ready. Like if you're ready at the beginning of your first year, come talk to us. There's always I was working with a handful of students before Wildcat Welcome. Right?
Wow.
Because we take so damn long to start our quarter. We start super late, right? So you're like, all of your friends are in college, and you're like, I'm going to start college, right? So we, but so I've talked to people before they even started to get engaged. If you're on a different path and you're exploring different things, and you discover midway through your senior year that you want to do it, great, come talk to us. There's still opportunities. So it's essentially when you're ready. The transition to college is not an insignificant one. There's a lot going on. And so there's no rush. It really isn't like I've got to get going now. When you're ready, we're here. And whenever you're ready, there's going to be opportunities for you. So it's never too early or too late. Bring it on.
Awesome. So this is a great question, and one I'm always, maybe because I'm nerdy and I also went to Northwestern and I love learning about different things. Ben is asking, what are some notable undergrad research projects and findings that have taken place here on campus or through our community? Are there any great stories you want to tell, Peter?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, normally when people ask a question, okay, so what field are you in? Because we fund across everything. But so there was a really remarkable project that we funded this past summer, and it was 2 students, and one was a journalism student and one was a computer science math student.
Okay.
And they took a religious studies class together, and the religious studies professor had talked about, it was a class where one of the things they talked about was the Great Migration of African Americans to out of the Jim Crow South into Chicago, and how they established a lot of churches and stuff like that as part of that. And he said in the class, and I've known him, and he's like, I say this every year when I teach this class, like there would be an amazing research project to study and explore how that happened, how like the kind of diffusion of churches and where people moved. And so
Yeah.
those two students, they're both named Hannah, they went up to him and were like, well, we want to do this. And they ended up doing this amazing project where they went and interviewed. They interviewed and did ethnographic research in Black churches all around Chicago to kind of learn the stories and the histories of them. They also got all this census data and data from the city of Chicago around buildings and building permit, like all this really intense data. And they made a long form journal. And then the computer science person did all this incredible mapping with GIS, where you can see the patterns of how people moved in and then moved out, and different people moved in, and how it impacted religious communities and where they moved. It's a stunning work. Just won an award. We just had an award ceremony. Sorry, that's my other cat.
That is okay.
They're very interested in Northwestern as well.
Yeah. We are the Wildcats.
It's amazing. Yeah. But there's amazing projects. We fund. In fact, just yesterday, we have a grant called the Circumnavigators Grant, which is basically $10,000 for one student to travel around the world the summer after their junior year. And they have to, this is a requirement, they have to go to a minimum of 5 countries on a minimum of 3 continents, and they must cross every meridian. They have to go all the way around the world. And so we just had that competition. Well, we had the first half of that competition, and 3 finalists were just named, and they will interview, have interviews at the beginning of winter quarter to find the winner. But we've funded students with that from every Northwestern school. So Weinberg, School of Com, Medill, McCormick, engineering. So everybody gets in. Being in School of Music, we funded a couple of students to do it. So
yeah, that's awesome. No, yeah, that sounds like an opportunity I wish I had known about going to Northwestern. But that's really
it's crazy
cool.
Because not that many people. We had 16 people apply. 16.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
$10,000 to travel around the world. And 16 was the highest number we've had in 6 years.
Wow.
I had 3. I'm like, my money's no good.
Only 3 people applied?
3 people applied. So come to Northwestern, take my money.
I'm just curious, were any of those applicants ones who had done research prior to applying for the Circumnavigators grant?
Yeah, so a couple of times that will. Two of the finalists have gotten grants, and in one case, it's a continuation of the project. So one of the finalists is looking at maternal health outcomes, because apparently a lot of maternal health research really focuses on the babies, and if the babies are okay, the moms are okay, and that's kind of a silly assumption to make, and so she wants to study maternal outcomes. And she had done a part of that project earlier with funding from us. And another one is looking at social media and how social media is used by activist organizations, particularly around climate change, and how they're building organizations. And the third one is looking at this incredible. There's this paradox. It's got some name, but I don't remember what the name is. Where if a country has a high gender, there is a high degree of women involved in computer science careers. But if a country has low issues, they have low involvement for women in computer science. So it doesn't make any sense. Like the students, the countries where there's less inequality between the sexes, there's less people involved in that. And the places where you wouldn't think. So she's going to be exploring that. I said that really, really clumsily, but it's actually really, really cool.
I understand. That'll be cool.
Her proposal is much better than what I'm saying.
No, I'm sure you get dozens of these all the time, if not a lot more. But that's really exciting. And I'm actually interested, as someone who also really does social media, hence why I'm here tonight. I'm interested to see how that works out. That'll be interesting. Let's see. We're also getting a lot of questions specifically about, Pooja's question was very popular. I'm trying to find it once again. It was discussing how Pooja can tie together, is it possible to, and how is it, if possible, to tie together research that consists both of economics and medicine?
Mm-hmm. So we have a ton of students working down at the medical school. So the Feinberg School of Medicine is on the Chicago campus, but there's a free intercampus shuttle, and students go down there and work all the time. And there is a division of medical social sciences down there. So they're around the social science aspects of medicine, and economics are a big, huge part of that. So not only is it something that could be done, there's actually a place where they're already doing it. And a lot of those people are super open to having undergrad. So getting involved with that would be fairly routine and easy to do.
Awesome. How do you support those students looking to reach out to professors at the medical school?
Yeah, so one of the things that we realize is that reaching out to faculty can be scary. And so we process easy. So my office, we run a finding a lab or finding a faculty mentor workshop every week of every quarter, because we realize how important this is. And what we do is we talk to, and we also do this in our one-on-one advising. I had a meeting with a student in Skype about this morning. We just talk about, okay, so what do you want? And then what is the best process for reaching out to faculty and getting a response? Because it's real easy to to reach out to people, but what are the best practices that can get you to have them respond to you and eventually, hopefully, get you involved? So we have a lot of resources. There's a lot of resources on our website around getting started and getting involved in labs. So there's a lot of kind of things that are out there, but we specifically work with students on that part of the process, because particularly in labs, like if until you get in a lab, there's really nothing to talk about. Because the labs kind of dictate that. So, and it's not, one thing I tell students all the time, like labs are medieval city-states. They're little fiefdoms. They're all run exactly how the person who runs them wants to run them. So there is no uniform way to get a lab, what people do in a lab, it's all just kind of however they want to run it. But that we've developed strategies and processes that can actually help you turn that kind of chaotic thing into your benefit. Like, let's make it more positive for you. And so we've got processes to kind of help you. So you're not just getting into a lab, because labs work on super freaking specific things. And unless you're really interested in that, you're not going to like it. So getting into a lab is not the issue. Right, there's over 600 biolabs. Like, are you going to get in a lab? Yeah, you're going to get in a lab. Hopefully it will be fast, but it might not. But you're going to get into one. So what we focus on is getting in the right lab, getting into a place that's a match for what you want to learn and explore more about. And we can help with that.
That's awesome. Could you talk a little bit more about, so you mentioned one of these workshops already on reaching out to faculty. What are some of the other workshops that your office consistently does to support students in any step of the process that they are in terms of research?
Yeah, so there's really kind of three phases that we have. So one is the pre, and so there's to find faculty, and so we have the finding a faculty and finding a mentor workshops. So we kind of are helping people get started and kind of intro to research workshops. And then we have workshops around and advising. We do a lot of heavy one-on-one advising is really the coin of the realm for us. But we do run workshops around proposal writing. And like I'm running a workshop every Monday of winter quarter designed to help people in the arts, humanities, and social sciences learn how to develop their own project and write a grant proposal for our summer grant program. And so there's like support for developing a project and learning how to write proposals. And then we also have when you're immersed in the experience. So we have workshops around professional development and what do you do with research afterwards. So we try to kind of run the gamut of that. Like, for example, we run what's called the Undergraduate Research and Arts Exposition, which is the largest research conference on campus. Okay. And we have poster sessions, and we have oral presentation panels where students are giving talks, and we have a creative arts festival because, we have a school of music. They don't want to talk about their music, right? They want to play their music, right? And we have theater program, amazing arts programs here, right? Filmmakers want to show their film, not talk about it. So we have that. With the oral presentations, there are mandatory workshops for all the student presenters, because what we want to talk about is how do you present? You guys live in a communication society. You have to be able to communicate effectively with people in whatever field you go into, and yet we don't ever talk about that, right? We act like, if you're smart, one thing because you've got teachers, right? Being really smart about something does not mean you're able to communicate it effectively to other people. And it's a different skill set. So with the Expo, we run these workshops that are about presentation. So students all do their talks for me, and I don't give them any feedback on whether their nanotechnology stuff is right, because Lord knows I have no idea. But we talk about how they're communicating, right? And what are the tools on their tool belt? How can they be more effective as themselves as communicators?
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow, the more you keep talking, Peter, I'm not just saying this, I'm like, should have done more research in undergrad, but that's okay. So you mentioned theater, and as you know, Peter, we have many wonderful students interested in many different programs. We are getting a lot of questions about our theater program.
Yay!
Could you talk a little bit about the opportunities for students who are studying theater at Northwestern to be involved with research, or could you also give some examples of how what some of these projects have looked like in the past?
Sure. So there's a lot of different ways that people can get involved. If you're theater and something else and you want to do research in that other thing, yep, you can do it, right? But if we're right now, my sense the question is about research within the world of theater. And there's a number of different ways. So, for example, we fund a crap ton of people every year with summer grants who want to write a screenplay or write a play. Yeah. And so they need to do research in order to write the best screenplay they can, or they need to interview people, and it's part of that. So there's all kinds of, or people need to choreograph dances, right? So they need to do research around the kind of thing. So that's super common and super easy. There have been times like there was interesting choreography. There was one where a student was psychology, a double major with psychology and theater, and he was studying this. I can't remember the name. It was an autoimmune disease, but it had a very dramatic vision of it, and so the student wanted to make a dance through that, like showing that. And so he did research and he worked with psychologists and psychiatrists around that. But then it was a choreography piece, and it was his senior thesis. But he was trying to integrate his psychology with the dance that he was doing. We just funded a student who is about to direct a next quarter, and she's trying to, so she's doing this show, and there is some kind of so it's really about objectification of the female body, and she's trying to, so she's dealing with a play where that's part of the topic, and she's trying to make it so that doesn't happen. So what she's exploring is different types of theater that can be used different, so shadow puppets like manual cinema does, or toy theater where you're working in 3D but not working with bodies, of way of kind of distancing from the body. So she's exploring, but in the end, the money was to pay for her to put up the show. So sometimes they are, the grant projects are about the content of it, like, oh, to learn more about this topic in order to do it justice in my artistic realm. And sometimes it's about process. There's another one we just filmed. We just funded a film project that was looking at how particular camera angles can be used to get this particular effect. And so she's doing research around these kind of camera angles. But again, I'm paying for the money for the film. So lots of ways. Like, so generally what I say to the all of the artists, I say, when you come in, I want you to be the best artist that you can be. Like, we're not just jumping through a bureaucratic hoop to try and get my money. We want to think about how is the best work of art that you can make it. So why does this need to happen, right? So we want to push you to be the best artist that you can be, because that benefits everybody.
Exactly. I love to hear it. Love all these opportunities made possible. Can you still hear me, Peter?
Yep.
Okay, great. I thought something went out in my audio, but we're all good, thankfully. Technology's succeeding today. Let's see. I had another question. Oh, okay. This one is also coming up a lot. How doable would you describe, I mean, neither of us are students, but you worked with students more directly, and you've been doing this for a while now. Could you describe how doable it is to do research along with balancing a class? So that seems to be a question that's coming up a lot with students tonight.
Yeah, I mean, so it's like college is demanding, right? You have these classes and you have professors, and they expect you to do stuff, and it's more stuff than you're used to doing. But so part of it depends. So we fund a lot of projects in the academic year, and we fund much more in the summer. And that's part of the reason. Like, you can go more in depth with it. But there's a couple of different ways. Like for example, sometimes like if you take on like if you do Leopold, like that's in addition, right? So yeah, like making that work within your schedule, you just got to think, be realistic about what. But sometimes what students do a lot with research is they do it for independent study credit. So it actually becomes a course, so it becomes a part of your course load. So the time that you're going to do your research is actually part of the time that you're working on courses. So it's not an add-on, it's a way to do the research, but also you're getting credit, so it doesn't always have to be more and more, right? Because more is not always more.
Exactly. Yeah, and just to give some of the students out there, at Northwestern, since we are on the quarter system, students typically take about 4 classes each quarter. And so this was actually one of the opportunities I was looking into while I was a student here, was that this class that Peter is talking about would be a substitute. So you would essentially take 3 classes, do your typical lecture, discussion, everything along those lines. And that 4th class would be that research opportunity. And a lot of my friends have really enjoyed that while they were here.
Super common in labs in particular, right? So a student may work all year in the lab, right? Mm-hmm. And they'll do it for this independent study credit. So it says it's like a class, but really you're just working in lab. So it carves out the time that you would work in lab, so you're not trying to do more and more.
Exactly. It's a key to find out the best balance in everything that you do here. Yeah. We're also getting questions about, actually, I want to ask this question first, because I feel like this is one that excited me. This one might be one that excites you too. You'll be the judge of that, Peter. What is something about research here at Northwestern that you would like to see more publicized besides the Circumnavigators grant? Like, what is an opportunity you feel like is very Northwestern specific, underrated, that you would like prospective students in the audience tonight to know more about?
Yeah, what I would say is, look, research happens everywhere, right? So whatever school you go to, they're going to be doing undergraduate research. But in most places, it is almost exclusively in the STEM fields. It's almost exclusively a kind of lab. Most places really struggle with how to get students involved in research when it's not a lab. So the arts and the humanities in particular. So I was particularly hired to develop that because my PhD is in theater studies. I was a professional actor. I come from that background, and they wanted to develop that. So one of the things that we do, what I feel well and is really exciting, is that it's in all fields, and particularly in those arts humanities. Like, you can do really meaningful stuff that you want to do, and it isn't like, we're not funding 10 people, right? We'll fund as many people. Like, when I took over, we gave out about $250,000 a year to students.
Okay.
And last year we gave out $1.4 million to students.
Wow.
And that's just my office. There's lots of other people that are doing this. Like, Leopold is not my kinds of other things that are going on. But that's just us. But one of the things that I think is really exciting about what we do is that not only is there opportunity, but there's resources, because, it's great for me to say, oh, you can do it as a theater major, but the theater major is going to go, I don't know how to do that, right? So we'll teach you. So that's what I think is what I'm really proud of.
Yeah.
Right, Luke?
I love it. Thanks, Peter. So we're also getting questions. So we talked a little bit about the post-research phase and presenting these gatherings, doing post-research sessions, art expos, everything along those lines. Sort of related to that realm, could you talk a little bit more about the resources undergrads have to gain publication in journals, or being able to publish whatever research they may be doing in any realm, beyond just Northwestern specific settings?
Yep, that's great. And we encourage that a lot. So I run a program called the Conference Travel Grant Program. This funds students who are accepted to present at any conference. And I am the entire review committee for that grant, right? So this is what I'm looking for. Did you get accepted to present at the conference? The answer should be yes. Right. Did you make up the conference? The answer should be no. Because apparently years ago, there was a humanities conference in Hawaii that actually wasn't legit. So as long as it's a real conference and you get accepted, I'm going to give you money. And I will give you money to attend, to present at as many conferences that you get accepted to. Right. So this isn't a one-off. You can do this in different fields. You can do them internationally. So there's lots of opportunity for that. I mean, students, I mean, that program has just like quintupled in the last 4 years, I believe, right? As students learn about it and learn that you can do that. And really, you work with faculty to find these things, right? Your faculty will help you find what conferences you can, but it's a tremendous opportunity. Again, it's a way of trying things on. Oh, do I like this field? I'm going to hear what's going on. Do I want to do this? Ooh, no, that was super janky and boring. I don't want to do it. Great, don't do it. And you didn't have to pay for it. In terms of publication, publication is a super disciplinary specific thing. And grants are not, so grants can help you pay for the money to do the research, but how you get that published is really going to be something that you'll talk to your faculty about. There are a number of undergraduate, there is the Northwestern Undergraduate Research Journal, which isn't run through my office. It's run independently by students. And there's a lot of those kinds of things, but it's not uncommon to be able to publish in the same journals that faculty are publishing in. There's a student who's graduated who worked for me for part of this year, who's first author on a science publication in a major journal, right? Wow. She's an undergrad, right? So it happens, and it's not like insane. It's not like, but that right? No, this is stuff that can be done, and there's a lot of resources and opportunities for that.
That's great. I don't know. I just am amazed. I'm such a dork when it comes to this stuff. I love it. You're so great, Peter. Let's see. Um, so does your office work with engineering students in finding co-ops, or is that mostly through McCormick?
That's through McCormick. So we don't have anything to do directly with the co-op program, but we
Right.
have worked with students who, through co-op, have developed their own, URG projects. So we know we kind of work with them a lot, but we're not a part of that kind of placement stuff. Though I do teach, and I teach what's called Design Thinking and Communication, which is the first year seminar
I didn't know
for
that.
McCormick students. Right, so I just finished that class where you get like a real client and you teach the design process for like a real client with a real problem that you have to like at the end of it, you've got to have a prototype and be like, here it is.
Yeah.
So it's a cool thing.
That's so great. So speaking of that, I mean, I'm a little bit familiar with DTC and these sort of other opportunities that we have connecting students to real world experiences, including research and other companies, just like the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab through DTC in downtown Chicago. Does your office or do research opportunities often find themselves also having partners with different companies in the country and the world? Are there common partners that we work with in the research realm?
Yeah, so it's a great question. What I would say is that we work. So that we, meaning the Office of Undergraduate Research, we don't have like this set of partners that you can just pick up and go like a study abroad program. We don't have anything like that.
Right.
But what we do, part of the advising process is going, okay, who are the potential collaborators that we would need? And the process of how do we find those people and how do we reach out to them and how do we cultivate them? How do we figure out what they need? Not just what we want, but what do they need and what do they want? And engaging with them. But most of the time, like all of those circumnavigator things, they all have, they've got those contacts in all of those countries already set up. They've already built up all of those relationships now. And that doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen like we support the student through that. So it is a huge normal part of research.
Yeah.
And we just kind of cultivate that, but it's student led, which is in the end better because once you kind of learn and live that process, you've learned and lived that process, and now you could like the process that we teach is the same process you will use for the rest of your life whenever you're like, I'm interested in this. I want to make a difference in this. How do I go about that? Right? Once you know that process, it works for everything.
Yeah, that's good to know. So it takes so many lessons away from research. How is mentorship unique for research at Northwest? Or how is mentorship for research? Sorry, I don't know how I'm asking this question. Let me just take 1 second. I apologize, Peter. Let's see. What makes, I think I'll rephrase the question. What makes mentorship, we've talked a lot about faculty advisors and a little bit about how they work with undergraduate students. How are those mentorships more unique at Northwestern?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what question. I think, do you?
Yeah, no, I understand. Like,
great.
Right. So, I mean, look, I'm not going to pretend that there aren't expert, wonderful faculty at all kinds of other schools, right? It's not like we've got all our purple people are the bestest ever and everyone else is super janky. No. At the same time, there is a real dedication among the faculty to support and mentor students. When we were first developing the office and creating the office, my boss said, yeah, you're probably not going to grow that much because faculty are eventually going to be like, too many undergrads. I've got other things that I have to worry about. And it just keeps growing and growing, and more faculty are involved in deeper levels. And I think one of the things that's really special, the story that I hear from our faculty again and again about why they do it, because, so for example, lab faculty will tell me that every time they take on an undergrad, it costs them $5,000 because of the training that they have to give and the fact that, we might have to run that experiment again because they didn't know what they were doing, right? So they don't do it because you're going to be so productive and so helpful. They do it because they were you, right? Because someone took them under their wing and someone
Right.
helped them and nurtured their ideas. And it's really remarkable because, Research One universities are really, really intense places to work for faculty. And so for them to be so dedicated, it is really remarkable. So I'm very, very impressed by the faculty's willingness to support students when it really doesn't help them, and it actually mostly complicates their lives, but they do it because they care. And that's really wonderful.
No, yeah. And if I may intrude for a quick second, I definitely can echo what you just said, Peter. So funny story, my sophomore year, I was actually undecided a couple of times, but we don't have to get into that. But I was participating in a study for the psychology department because my intro to psych class was requiring me to do multiple studies for credit, yada, yada, yada. And I got to one lab, and usually at the end, as a lot of graduate assistants or faculty members ask who are running the research study, they asked me, do you have any questions? And I was really interested in this research project they were doing relating to race, bias, and how that affects our biases in everyday life. And just after that study, I had a conversation with the lab group for like maybe half an hour. And without ever prompting them, they just asked me on the spot. They're like, hey, have you ever done a research before? We're actually looking for research assistants for the next quarter. Do you want a position in our lab? And that was how I got involved with research without even looking for it. So I definitely agree. Like, faculty are really awesome. I'm not just saying that because I work for our office, but because in my real world experience as an undergrad, they're just really nice. And I couldn't agree more with what you just said. Yeah. So lots of great ways to get involved with research. Let me see. So we're almost out of time, but I want to see, is there anything else that you want to hit on before we sort of take like one or two last questions and then wrap up, Peter?
I think the takeaway is that, this is a great place for you to explore what you want to explore. So much of your life you have been doing assignments that other people thought were a good idea, and whether or not you agreed with them was pretty much irrelevant, right? That's why you're applying to Northwestern, because you're really, really good at playing the game of school. And research is the opportunity for you to say not what you think is interesting, but what do I think is interesting? And why do I think that that's interesting? Like, we have to do self-work about what's that about for me? Why do I want that? What does that mean? What's that seed? Where is it growing? And then there's incredible opportunities for you to learn from people who know about some of that stuff and can help you grow, but in many ways in service of what you want to do. And that's just a really wonderful, I've just seen it transform so many student experiences. And it really just starts with you. What do you want?
That's so deep. I love it. Just for a few more questions. So to my understanding, the undergraduate research opportunities are pretty equitable here on campus. So people are getting questions about undergrad research work for international students. Are there any additional barriers for different types of students or anything along those lines?
Yeah. For us, if you're an undergraduate student, we love you. It's there's no different barriers for international students. Like, everyone undergrad. If you're an undergrad, bring it on. There's nothing different. If you're an international student and you get hired through our undergraduate research assistant program, then you get a social security number, which means you have to go through the U.S. government, which can be really useful, but means you have to go through government bureaucracy. But that's not my bureaucracy. But in terms of eligibility and opportunity, we fund music students, international, performance-centric students, international students, dual degree. I mean, whatever it is, there's really what students do is they come into my office and I say, what are you interested in? And whatever they say, I'm like, great, let's go. Right? So there's nothing that makes me go, ooh, nope, sorry, you shouldn't be with me. Whenever you want, we got it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's why, yep. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but yeah, thank you. I guess I'll ask this as a final question. Are all labs available to all undergraduate students to work in? Because, as an example, I know that we have Sir Fraser Stoddart in the chemistry department, and I can just imagine, being that he's a Nobel Prize winner, so many students want to work with him or something along those lines. Is there any specific labs that are, they don't take any undergrads, or are they all just sort of generally available if they have spaces available?
Yeah. I mean, it's a good question. Fraser Stoddard works with undergrads. Rick Silverman, who developed Lyrica, works with undergrads. Chad Merkin, who's one of the leading experts on nanotechnology, has 1 billion undergrads in his lab. Leading people do. Does everybody? No. For two reasons. Sometimes the research that they're doing is beyond the level that undergrads are in. So they can't do it if they can't do it. The other reason would be if the funding of the lab doesn't allow them to do that. So sometimes there are funding, like I got money from the NSF, and the NSF says I can only use my money to do that.
Right.
Yeah. So for the most part, there's no again, it's idiosyncratic. It's fiefdoms, right? So it's like whoever the lord or lady of the manor is and what they think. But one of the things is, when I first started, I didn't think there would be as much opportunity like down at the med school or the law school or Kellogg, so professional schools. Yeah, they work with undergrads all the time, right? So not everybody, because there's got to be cranky people in the world. And just sometimes it's just not a match because the level of what they do. Yeah. So it's not everybody.
Yeah, that's good to know. Being realistic but optimistic. That's our jobs. Okay. Thank you so much. We really appreciate having you here tonight.
And Luke, bye too.
Say bye, Luke.
Here we go. Bye, Luke. What's the best way for students to stay in contact or learn more about research now that they've heard so many great opportunities from you?
Yeah, so our website, which is undergradresearch.northwestern.edu, tons of opportunities there. There's even a searchable database. So kind of finding opportunities. There's all kinds of programs, not just mine, but study abroad, leadership, labs, grants, fellowships. So that's a cool thing to explore. And if anyone wants to talk to me and ask me specific questions about things that you're interested in, that's perfectly fine. All over our website is the undergradresearch@northwestern.edu email address. That goes directly to me. We have an advising request form, goes directly to me. P-Civetta at Northwestern goes directly to me. So if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Peter. And for those of you out there, thank you so much for joining us. Again, I don't know what time you're in right now. It could be the middle of the night for you. It could be literally
it could be tomorrow.
Central. It could be tomorrow. Who knows? But we really appreciate y'all joining us tonight for this live from Northwestern and its undergraduate research. And if you want to stay in touch with us, what we'll do is we'll put a hyperlink on the screen. You could also see it in the YouTube description right now. And you can find that information for getting more information from our Office of Undergraduate Research. We actually just sent out an email with research opportunities and the things taking place here on campus. Maybe you got about this live stream taking place. Maybe you just want to hear more about how great we think Northwestern is. You can click on that link for more information. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. You'll get more of these videos in the future. But thank you again, Peter. I hope you have a wonderful night, and I hope y'all have a wonderful night too. Thank you so much, and good night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.